When you see sand here, imagine water. If you dive in, you can't reach the bottom.
You dive in.
Yes, it's called swimming.
Don't try to impress anyone.
May thy knife chip and shatter.
The whistle's blown for the return of Arrakis' army. From an interesting cast to an intriguing plot, Dune Part 1 was a 3-course meal for Hollywood's starving sci-fi enthusiasts. It was nothing short of an epic achievement in the art of science fiction, adaptation and filmmaking. And now Dune Part 2's back to heat the movie world. The expectations were sky high. Dune 2 created its world by taking the essence out of the prequel. By taking inspiration from Frank Herbert's science fiction novel Dune, Denis Villeneuve and his crew have moulded an engaging follow-up to the Oscar-winning 2021 film. The technical aspects are taking the movie to another level. The continuum of the story, along with the landscapes of Arrakis, sets the field for perfect storytelling. No doubt, returning to the desert planet of Arrakis, Villeneuve delivered a dark and gripping blockbuster. Now, was it a comeback for Paul Atreides? The movie Dune revolves around the aura of Paul Atreides, the protector of Arrakis. The movie discusses the potential survival of Paul Atreides, played by Timothe Chalamet, and his mother Jessica. The ending of Dune Part 1 was a doorway for Denis to embrace a young man's journey to become a liberator. As Dune Part 1 came to an end, Paul Atreides and Jessica continued to fight for survival on the desert planet Arrakis. Jessica, being a member of an all-female sect known as the Bene Gesserit, had to save Paul at any cost, as he was the one who could save Arrakis and the spice. They were struggling to escape the death between the harsh storms and giant sandworms. The rage that developed in Paul, seeing his family and people getting killed by the Harkonnens, took them a long way to Fremen's. The movie took a turn where Paul personally met Chani, played by Zendaya, who he used to see a glimpse of in his prophetic dreams. He was overwhelmed to see the strength she held as a member of the Fremen, the only people who knew how to survive in Arrakis' desert landscape. As the movie ends, Paul joins the Fremens to avenge the Harkonnens for the death of his father and loved ones. So will he take the lead of Fremens? As Dune Part 1 ended with Paul Atreides joining the Fremens for an attack on the Harkonnens, there's a chance for him to take the lead for them. Once the teaser was out, those speculations found its shape. The teaser itself was a testament that Paul Atreides would return as the protector of Fremens with Chani alongside. But did Paul Atreides succeed in the journey? Timothe Chalamet took a different shade this time. From being a passive warrior in the prequel, this was a journey of transition for Arrakis' fighter. The sequel starts where half of the Fremens accept and admire Paul Atreides as their messiah. This is when Paul chooses to lead the Fremens to paradise. He earns the trust of the Fremen by insisting that as a young prince he wants to serve the Fremen rather than control them, the way his family once controlled the planet. Even Chani is compelled to consider Paul as their protector, as they believe in a prophecy that a mother and son will bring prosperity to Arrakis. At the same time, Paul's mother Jessica is informed that their reverend mother is dying, and she's convinced to take the position of Siege Taba's reverend mother. To do so, Jessica must drink the water of life, a substance that's fatal to men and those who aren't trained to handle it. Jessica drinks the water of life and manages to change the poison within it. It also gives her access to the memories of all women in her genetic lineage. Jessica's pregnant, and the water of life awakens the mind of her unborn daughter, who starts having spiritual conversations with her unborn child. Paul starts to adopt the ways of the Fremen and learns their language. He passes various tests, including riding a sandworm and helping them raid Harkonnen spice operations. As a part of taking affirmation, Paul adopts the Fremen names Usul and Muad'Dib. It was a way for him to gel with some Fremen who still see him as an outsider and a potential threat to their survival. The essence of uncertainty hits the movie in the form of Austin Butler's character, who balances out against Chalamet's wild inner traits. Butler stars as a psychotic family member of Harkonnen named Fade Reuther, who's said to be the younger nephew of Baron Harkonnen, the antagonist in Dune Part 1. He seems to have a genuine hatred for anyone who isn't himself, including his own family, and that was the rise of a potential antagonist. The appearance of Austin Butler in the teaser was a surprise for the Dune fans, as it would definitely give a new layer for the Much, which it really did. Butler's transition as Fade Reuther was the best opponent Paul Atreides could ask for. Halfway through the movie, Paul Atreides in his visions foresees that a holy war will occur if he does take up the weight of the Messiah who will protect the Fremens. The Dune fans must have experienced the peak level excitement when Paul reunites with Gurney Halleck, played by Josh Brolin, who joined a group of spice smugglers after the downfall of the House of Atreides. He'll eventually lead Paul to the House Atreides' hidden atomic stockpile. While encountering an attack from the Harkonnens headed by Fade Rautha, Paul's left with no choice but to have the Water of Life, a fatal drink that can open up a person's mind, and accept his fate as the Lisan al-Gaib. As the movie heads to the end, the story intensifies in a fight between them with Hans Zimmer's background scores. Paul challenges Emperor Shaddam, played by Christopher Walker, for the throne and demands Irulan's hand in marriage, leaving Chani in surprise. Shaddam admits his involvement in the destruction of the Atreides. As the Great House arrives in orbit under the command of Baron Harkonnen, Paul threatens to destroy the spice fields with atomics if they intervene in the matter. To save his court, Shaddam chooses Fade Rautha as his champion, but Paul kills him in a knife duel. Irulan, played by Florence Pugh, agrees to Paul's request for marriage on the condition that her father lives despite his involvement in the fall of Atreides. As Paul agrees, Shaddam kneels and kisses his signet ring. After the great houses above Arrakis reject Paul's ascendancy, he orders the Fremen to attack the fleet. As Stilgar leads the Fremen onto the captured Saraduka ships, Jessica comments on the beginning of Muad'Dib's holy war. The film ends with Chani refusing to bow to Paul and departing alone on a sandworm to ride somewhere else. Now, will it be the end of Paul's and Chani's budding chemistry? Once the trailer was out for the audience to devour, one thing that they took to heart was the potential chemistry that was built between Zendaya and Chalamet. Though the movie spends more time with Chalamet's character, Zendaya steals the show as Chani despite her limited space in the first part. The first part of the movie did leave some space for the second one to explore the different layers of complexity in Chalamet and Zendaya's relationship. While both actors deliver strong performances, the romantic spark between them doesn't quite convince on screen. Perhaps their connection's better served by the subtle glimpse here and there. The way the movie takes a turn when Chalamet agrees to marry Princess Irulan in the climax will have so much to do with the relationship between Paul and Chani at present. Chani's left alone on a sandworm after watching Paul and Princess Irulan go hand in hand. That leaves the relationship uncertain. Netizens even expect a rivalry between them in the next sequel. This is in turn possible, and such a twist will add more to the story and the character landscape of both Paul Atreides and Chani. But will there be a third instalment to test that chance? By the time Dune 2's ending comes to a head, the doorways for the third instalment were opened and the story re-centered around Paul Atreides' challenge to become the new emperor. Therefore, the chances are high that Denis Villeneuve will take up yet another challenge. The Dune Prophecy is all set to release on HBO and the associated streaming platform, Max, pretty soon. Dune fans have already speculated about the entry of Paul Atreides as Messiah in the series, but the trailers made it clear that the Dune Prophecy will be a prequel that will talk about the influence of the Harkonnen sisters in the fate of Arrakis. Therefore, such an entry remains a burning rumour, but at the same time, Prophecy can be a potential gateway for Dune Messiah to uphold Paul Atreides as a protector of Arrakis. The movie's definitely been a win for Denis Villeneuve, who dared to challenge conventional storyline and filmmaking, and that's what makes Arrakis' army's comeback inevitable. So what do you think? Will Paul Atreides make his way to the sand dunes soon? Comment below, don't forget to like the video and share it with your fellow fans. Be sure to check in by pressing the bell icon. Subscribe for more, see you in the next one.